So, hello. I'm Andrew Jenkins, and this is a short countdown timer to help the various live feeds, catch up and settle down with each other. And in the meantime, you can listen to my Uncle Peter and Minor Blues. There you go. And we've got the amazing Darren Stanton, body language expert, world-renowned, on the show again for a Showtime Part 2, folks. And we're going to be talking about successful body language, how to harness the success of the power of body language for leadership mastery we've got today. And Darren is behind many of the media comments about well-known TV personalities and entertainment shows, and he's appeared on TV many times himself, and here he is on our live show. How good is that? Huzzah! Brilliant. Give us a quick wave, Darren.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, and we got Mrs. Moderator herself. There we go. Say a quick hello, Sarah.
Morning.
Morning.
He's coming up.
I'm just waiting for the feed. Yeah. Oh, there we go. There's somebody. Fantastic. We know we're always good to get a comment, so we know that we're all right then. Just joining the live feed myself. Tap to join. Here we go. Super duper. We're on. Good morning, everybody. And this is the 126th show, folks. So with Sarah, Darren, me, Tilly, our LinkedIn marketing CX expert, and Healthy Minds Club, our sponsor. That's this week's team, folks. Wow. Good morning, folks. Boom, there we go. So, oi, people and hi, gang. It's Leaders Live Showtime, folks. Huzzah and hurrah. Love those. Just a bit of stupid in the morning, but more than a little bit crazy. And it's just after 8:45 a.m. here in the UK. And we are live with Leaders Live, folks. Spreading the love. Yabba dabba do. Hope you enjoyed that groovy opener as well, gang. And this week we're delighted that we're being powered by Healthy Minds Club. That's this week's sponsor. And look out for who's sponsoring us each week. We'll say a little bit more about that a bit later on. And please let us know if our audio is coming through okay as well, please. We've got different audio this week, so it should be better than last week. And if you're new to Leaders Live, a warm welcome to you, folks. And this week's, Leaders Live, let me tell you a little bit about Leaders Live. It's a dynamic weekly talk show that generates business through networking, through community, through extraordinary conversations that inspire. And as I mentioned in the countdown, I'm Andrew Jenkins, and I host this weekly interactive Leaders Live show that's built an awesome community of people, folks, just like you guys logging on right now. So please don't be shy. We'd love you to introduce yourself and join in, interact with the comments, chat with us, ask questions of Darren, body language expert. Please ask lots of questions. And we've just got 3 simple rules, and that's a safe community, mutual respect, and please no selling in the room. And our motto is I to the power of we. So there we go. And listen, one easy way that you can show your support for this free show and the time and effort that we put into produce it, and boy, we put in hours a week to get this show sorted, is you can use a little app called buymeacoffee.com, using the link buymeacoffee.com/leaderslife. Simple as that. And buy me $5 and you get a free half-hour coaching session, folks, and all proceeds go to the show. And it looks a bit like this. Hey, there you go. You get your name up in lights, and we give you a round of applause. How good is that? Just for a free coffee. There you go. So the link's in the feed now, I think, or somewhere or other. And you get a shout out too, obviously. And as I said, all proceeds goes to the show. And smash those likes as well, folks. And those thumbs up, that just helps the show, keeps us motivated. And we really appreciate that as we're going along. So few, put it all together. What have you got? Yep, you've got it. Bibbidi, bibbidi, bobbidi, boo. And you'll be singing that song for ages. So let's just bring up this week's hangout guest. Oh, I forgot my words there for a minute. So body language expert, Darren Stanton. How you doing, mate?
Hi, very good. How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing fine. We're fine and dandy to have you on the show. I'm just going to move you down a little bit. There we go. Right. So, and our theme today is radiating success. Harness the power of body language for leadership mastery. And our Darren is a world-renowned expert in body language and ex-policeman, and he's been in lots of different places. Briefly, tell us a little bit about yourself and your current business and where we're heading today, Darren.
Yeah, sure. So obviously, as you mentioned, I'm sort of ex-police officer, left in 2010, but I'd always been working and studying On the side, sort of psychology. Obviously, went to uni, did psychology.
Yeah.
So since 2010, I've worked sort of in broadcast media, sort of assessing sort of politicians, world leaders, for the press, media, and then also working with private clients, corporate clients, in terms of teaching influence and persuasions, right, for like sales
Whoops.
teams, or just really being the best version of yourself, really. So motivation, influence, persuasion, and the thing I'm probably best known for is the sort of deception detection,
Yeah.
which is basic psychology of lying. So that's
Yeah,
the thing that
which we
I've kind
talked
of got my
about in
profile
part.
for, really.
Yeah, we talked about in part one, didn't we? We talked about lie detection, and yeah, as you said, that's something you've made quite a lot of interesting contacts with, Darren. I'm taking it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's one of those topics that everyone likes the idea of being able to step inside someone's head and read them. And the reality is that within a few short spaces of training, you can be quite proficient at and for the NLPers out there, the sensory acuity,
Indeed.
you can raise your game quite quickly.
Yeah, just by noticing, folks. Sensory acuity is a posh word for noticing, and just noticing what's going on around you, noticing those micro movements, right, Darren?
No, absolutely, yeah. Because sometimes we look at another person, and because we've known them for so long, we're not really. Well, there's an expression that says energy goes where attention
Yeah, I
flows.
love that. Yeah.
So if you set the intention to really see what's going on in somebody, you'll notice lots of things that you never saw before. So it's about setting an intention to see something different.
I really like that. Just set your intention to notice more and notice, what people are, not just listen to them, but notice what their body language is, what's going on in their facial features, responses to questions and things like that. Just noticing, and as you said, the attention flows where the attention goes where the energy
Energy
flows.
goes where attention flows. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's almost like getting in your car. You wouldn't really get in your car and not have a destination in mind. And some of us may have driven somewhere without thinking, but principally, we have an idea in our mind. So really, it's applying the same process that's thinking, right, okay, I want to improve my sensory acuity today.
Yeah.
Maybe when I go in for coffee or something like that, I'm just going to set intention to maybe look at where someone looks with their eyes.
Yeah.
So we know there's a correlation between how people process information and the direction they look with their eyes. So just one simple thing today, and you'll begin to notice that. Whereas normally, not having an intention to learn that day, it is literally like getting in your car and not having a destination. So I would suggest that every day, just pick one thing to focus on, and in the course of a week, you've kind of like raised your game no end.
Yeah, I like that. And go into a cafe and just watch people. People watch. It's great fun. I do it all the time. I absolutely love it. And you're right. Where people's eyes move, if they move to the left or the right, would determine whether they're fishing something out of memory or creating something new in their heads. If they look down, they're probably feeling something and trying to access that feeling, or maybe some inner mind chatter as well, depending where the eyes go. Right.
Yeah.
Darren?
I mean, coffee shops are great places.
Yeah, they
It's
just yeah.
I mean, I've seen people having a job interview. I've seen people on a date. I've seen people breaking up with somebody. I've seen
God.
job interviews. So
Yeah.
everything that happens in coffee
In
shops.
cafe shops, yeah, not just drinking coffee, folks, but everything
No.
happens in life there. And we've got an audience question as well. Darren, do you want me to shout it out, or have you got it in front of you?
No, sure, yeah, I can shout that out if you want to.
Okay. So look, we like you to interact with us. So, and this is your chance to interact with us. So, audience question: what is one small change that you've made to your own body language, folks, that you've noticed has a positive impact on your interactions or personal relationships with other people? So, what's one small change that you've made to your own body language that you've noticed has had a positive impact on others? And that's in the feed right now. And please ask questions as we're going along. There's a bit in the feed already, so we'll come to that right now. Actually, let's introduce Mrs. Moderator. How are you doing, Sarah?
I'm doing really well. For those of you who are looking at the comments, you will notice LinkedIn has allowed me to post links. It's the little things, isn't it, that make
It's the
it
little thing.
happen.
You've obviously graduated to be a grown-up on LinkedIn now, Sarah.
Clearly, they trust me now, so I'm very happy about that.
It's taken hours to get that sorted. Brilliant. Okay.
So,
So what's going on in the feed then, Sarah? Give us a little bit of an
so
intro.
I love this. And Anita said, I know you haven't started yet, Darren, but will you come back again, please?
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
I
love
love
that. She
that.
said what she liked about your last session was understanding how to use the knowledge in business and everyday life. So that was brilliant. I love that. So you haven't started, but will you come back?
Oh, thank you.
There you go. Friends already. Lovely, Anita.
That's it.
Feel the love.
Feel the love.
Right. Graham's on it again this
Hello,
morning.
Graham.
So, Darren, he's watching the series Catch a Copper.
Oh, Catch a Copper, yeah.
Have you noticed deception by former colleagues?
Oh,
Well, that's a really good one. I've not seen that show. Do you know what? That's one of the best questions I've ever asked.
Graham asked some great questions as Mr. Rose.
Absolutely.
I think not in terms of a job, not in terms of like perjury or something like that, but I'm trying to think of a situation. Oh, I think something, and that's probably a little bit silly, but I know I bought some M&S sandwiches once to work, and they went out the fridge at work, and one particular colleague, he'd basically had them, and I said, "Oh, I'm missing my sandwiches because I'm vegetarian as well," and they're like, "No, they all sat around the computers going, no, I'm not seeing them." Yeah, and the one guy's like,
Yeah, got crumbs down his chin.
and that's probably not the answer you're looking for, but yeah, certainly not in a professional capacity. But I think everyone's, no matter what organisation they're in, the thing is, this is what always intrigues me when I do corporate gigs, because when I ask the question to maybe 1,000 people, or 500 people, I'll say, "Who's lied in the last 24 hours?" And all these people are like shuffling in their seat, and I'm like, "Well, if you're saying you haven't, then." Even the smallest of innocuous white lies, we all do it. I mean, I'm often asked a question, oh, do you lie then? I'm like, yeah, all the time. I'm human. I'm the same as you.
Yeah, well, I'm lying right now.
Like I said, I got off a tube, in London, and I don't really carry change anymore because I think we're all guilty of that. But someone says, oh, have you got some spare change? And I was like, no. So I wanted to keep my change basically.
Yeah.
So it's something as small as that. It's still a lie, but it's it's not going to hurt anyone. So yeah, I think it always makes me laugh when no one. And you always get the kind of first person that goes, yeah, I lied yesterday. I told somebody something. then they all follow in. Then you see.
Yeah, when one starts, they all go. Brilliant, thanks. Yeah. Anything else, Sarah? You want to pick up?
Let's have a look. No, I mean, again, Anita's mentioned, but you saw some interesting body language while in the police.
Oh, I'll bet.
I mean, I'm guessing the more you know about body language, the more when you're interviewing people, you get a much better idea quicker about if they're telling the truth or not.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, although this stuff's not applicable in law, obviously, because I've been studying it for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Prior to being in the police and whilst I was in the cops of my own back, and statistically, a vast proportion of people that you're interviewing on a daily basis, they're actually regulars. Like you'll get regulars in any business. So a lot of the people that you interact with, a lot of people will just go, "Do you know, officer? Yeah, I've done it." They'll just
Fair
come
cop.
in. They see it. Yeah, they see it as a game. They go, "Yeah, I played the game. I lost this time."
Yeah.
So a lot of them will just come and admit it. But the ones that will kind of front it out, you'll, because if they've not been used to interacting with the police, then their own sort of physiology is going to be heightened because for those of you that have not been in a custody area, it's very overwhelming, very daunting.
It really is.
Very sterile environment, like a hospital almost in a way.
Yeah.
So that people are phased to start with, and to go into an interview situation. I mean, again, other countries call it interrogation, but it's it's in the UK it's an interview, and even though you're not going to come to any physical harm like in some countries, it's still a very overpowering experience. So people do tend to unravel quite quickly. Really.
Yeah, the lies stack up, don't they? And then it all falls apart, I guess, as they're trying to lie upon lie upon lie. I guess, Darren, is that? And then
the way that I explain it, really, Andrew, is if let's say, for example, if we have to dig a hole to tell a little white lie, okay, so we can probably successfully tell a little white lie.
Yeah.
But then if you're continuing to lie, you've got to cover that lie up. So
Yeah,
you
of
dig a
course.
slightly bigger hole.
Yeah.
But then eventually you're going to come to a situation where you've got this mountain, and that's when things tend to unravel, because we
Yeah.
we can't, we can't really, no matter who you are, we can't juggle 10 balls at the same time
That's
in
right.
terms of
Yeah.
managing our whole physiology.
Yeah. Our conscious
Um,
minds are quite tiny in that sense, aren't they?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
also, when we bring in the thing called detection apprehension,
Mm.
the consequence of what's going to happen. So yeah, it was quite interesting. I couldn't go to my inspector and say, "Oh, can I have a warrant because I've seen him look left instead of right," and things like that. But certainly
Yeah.
it does help, and I think it's coming more and more now, because I'm sort of talking to a couple of police forces at the moment that want to integrate some of this training, certainly in terms of new officers being able to build rapport, because that's one of the issues that a lot of forces have got now. The way they've sorry to go off tangent a little bit, Andrew,
No,
because
fine.
they're
Carry on.
recruiting straight from
Yeah.
university,
Mm.
whereas they used to want people from, say, the forces, or people with a little bit of life experience. What a lot of forces are finding now is they're getting 18, 19-year-olds coming in straight from uni,
Okay. Yeah.
and they haven't got the ability to build basic rapport. So
Mm.
that's something that I'm looking at implementing as as a trial in certain forces.
And basic rapport. So, were you good cop or bad cop before we get back to the questions?
I was always a good cop. I was always the one that people would resonate with.
The other guy on the build rapport
So I
and
look
then
left or right.
brilliant. Let's bring Sarah back in again for a minute. Mrs. Moderator.
Lovely. So Kieran's made a great
Oh,
comment.
hello, Kieran.
Eye contact is super important. It
Yeah.
can build connection and rapport and be less shifty, but
Ooh.
it's not easy or comfortable for everyone for face-to-face conversations. So the
Mm.
handy tip is to look at the other person between their eyebrows, and they'll notice that, and you'll relax.
Oh, I like that little tip. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah. I can just say one thing on that as well, since a great
Please.
observation is made.
Yeah.
I mean, textbook, as we know, we say average eye contact is 3 to 5 seconds.
Yeah.
For kind of normal kind of friendships, relationships. They say that obviously liars, they will overcompensate the eye contact to kind of like give the impression.
Yeah.
But he's quite right. The best way really is to never assume that everyone's the same. I mean, I've got friends, or I've met people that their eye contact's by definition terrible, but when you look at them in their own baseline,
Mm.
that's how they are. They're just not naturally confident. That doesn't mean they're a bad person or they're being deceptive. So, for them, that is the norm. So you must treat that as a baseline for them. The fact they can't look you in the eye doesn't mean, and that's why I always say that I don't believe in polygraph, because that's only working on 3 channels. Whereas with this, we're looking at 8 or 9 different channels of communication before we can build up an assumption
Picture.
or an assertion
Yeah.
that someone's being deceptive. So always treat the individual as an individual.
So you've got to calibrate each person individually.
Calibrate each person on
yeah.
their own merits. Yeah.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah.
So yeah, Anita says, going on from that, she said that too much eye contact can be indicative of psychopathy.
Mm.
I can't even say that properly today. What's your opinion of that, Darren?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the politician that always intrigued me for that was Sajid Javid, because he never blinks and his eye contact's just absolutely just constant.
Yeah.
And it's very off-putting. I've met
Very
people in the
off-putting.
past like that. It's very off-putting. Someone just glares at you. But you're quite right. So it's like psychopaths and sociopathy. There are correlations between that as well. So yeah,
Interesting.
it's a weird one.
A weird one. Yeah. And again, it's about calibrating, isn't it?
Well, it is, yeah. But
Yeah.
Sajid Javid, if you ever watch stuff on YouTube with him, he just literally. I mean, it was on Sophie Ridge on Sky News recently, and he's never lost that trait.
Yeah.
But for him, that's his norm.
That's his norm. That's his focus, right? Yeah. Sarah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Final question: did you get more information by being good cop rather than bad cop?
Yeah, I think because you generally, unless. Yeah, I think generally you crewed up as a 2 officers, certainly on nights, but generally you're on your own in the daytime. But if you go into an incident and you're trying to find out what's gone on, you're talking to a potential offender, you'd always find that the person takes a dislike, no matter where you go. The person will always take a dislike to certain cops. And I'll be, like I did work with some colleagues that were very arrogant, and yeah, say it like it is. And I did work with some people that I didn't appreciate their methods. They weren't sort of nothing sort of inappropriate in terms of their role. They were quite within within their remit, but some
Yeah.
of the way that people were spoken to wasn't right.
Mm.
And so therefore I used to treat people, I know the old adage is treat them as you would like to be treated, but it's
Yeah.
true. And on the way back to custody, sometimes it may be a 20-30 minute ride in the police car. That would be a great opportunity to build rapport with that person. And what you'd
Got it.
find is, even if they were very violent, on that trip back,
You could
by
settle
the
them
time you
down.
got them back to custody, they'd be very calm. And so you say
Mm.
to them, look, end of the day, we've got to interview. We've got certain things we've got to do.
Yeah.
If you just
Go with the
just be
process.
calm, we'll
Yeah.
get you out as quick as we can.
Mm.
Right. Whereas some officers might say, right, well, we'll keep you in all night, just for spite. So yeah, I think treating people properly. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you a
Settle
very,
them
very
down.
quick story about
Please do. Yeah.
how this paid off for me. They always say that people don't recognise you out of uniform. Well, I would say that's not true. Some years ago, in fact, I was still in the job, and I'd been to the gym, and I had my headphones in with my hoodie up, and I come out the car park, and somebody got my shoulder and like just kind of swung me round, and this guy went. I mean, I don't know what it's like all around the world, but in certainly in Nottingham and the Midlands,
Yeah.
a lot of the people that are prolific offenders, they'll call the cops the feds.
The
And
feds.
he said to me, he says, "You're a fed, aren't you?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, right."
Fair
And
cop.
he did. I thought, "Wow, I'm in trouble here, right?" And he
Mm.
went, held
Ah.
his hand out. I went, "What?" He went, "Let me shake hands with you." I went, "Why?" He said, "You don't know me, do you?" I said, "I'm afraid I don't know." He says, "About a year ago," he says, "you and your mates arrested three of my mates and me." He
Yeah.
says, "You're the only one that was right with me." He says, "So thank you."
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was
There you
wow.
go.
I was just shell shocked.
Yeah.
You know,
Principles. Principles.
yeah,
There we go.
yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. So let's give you a quick round of applause. Hey. Oh,
Oh,
where's my
that's you.
confetti gone? Oh dear. Let me just fix that 1 second while we're just talking. So yeah, while we're just talking there, then you've told us a funny story there, and that just reminded me of this year's quite an interesting year for you, Darren, because we've got the elections coming up, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah, Uh,
very good.
and people like, I guess, the characters in politics are very good to watch for. Whether we tell, there you go, there's some confetti pouring
Better late than
down.
never. That's it.
Better late than never. Yeah, indeed. That's the one I wanted. There you go.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. So yeah, Trump coming back into potentially into power. He's one of your favourite characters, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly, when he first came into power,
Mm.
I got so much work just off his handshake, for example, because he used to use his handshakes
Mm.
as a means to find out what other politicians were going to be like, if they were going to be like an easy touch,
Ah, okay. An easy
like
touch, literally.
pliable,
Yeah.
or be a little bit more challenging. So one of the things that
Mm.
he did, he kind of summoned almost every world leader to the White House. And then, for example, Theresa May. There was this bizarre footage of him walking, holding hands with Theresa May
Oh yeah.
at the White House. But what he used to do was really do what we'll call a bone crusher handshake.
Mm.
Now, there's some supposed correlations between the kind of handshake you give and the kind of person you are, maybe with integrity or morality. So there's plenty of people in the world that will judge a person on the strength of their handshake. If they've got a very strong handshake, they'll say, right, this guy's okay, or this
Mm.
person's okay, because they've got a really firm handshake. So I'm not sure how valid that is, but what he used to do with people was almost crush their hand. And when I do lectures and training, there's a great bit of footage when he first met the Japanese Prime Minister. Unfortunately, I think it's been assassinated now.
Oh dear.
Um, but he literally just crushes his hand, and
Mm.
as they release their hands, the Japanese guy shakes his hand because Trump's just crushed it. The only exception to that was Justin Trudeau from Canada.
Yeah.
He was briefed on this, so when
Of
he went
course.
to the White
Yeah.
House,
Yeah.
and when they shook hands, basically it ended up being a tug of war because each man knew the strategy. So in the end, it didn't work for Trudeau because he was
Uh,
given the heads up.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, well, you got to play someone at their own game, right? And it's a bit of a game by the sounds of it. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And talking about games, and and you mentioned confidence earlier, and some people, might not look at you because their confidence levels are low. Not that they're necessarily lying or anything like that, but just moving on to sort of business stuff for a minute. How do subtle shifts in body language influence things like negotiations or customer services, or sales and stuff like that. What's going on there, Darren? Just give us a
I
little
think
bit
the
of
thing
your
is to do
wisdom
is,
there.
is almost, sorry to cut you off, Andrew. You could,
No.
yeah. Yeah, I think the third thing is also to almost take a baseline of yourself. So
Yeah.
maybe if you, I mean, when I was working one-to-one with people,
Mm.
I'd get them just do a little bit of a elevator pitch on the phone. Just imagine that you're talking to that person. And to be honest, I do this myself when I see myself on, and I don't really watch myself on sort of telly and stuff. But when I've looked at stuff back,
Yeah.
I've seen it myself. Because just because I do what I do, it doesn't mean I can't learn, and we never
No.
stop learning.
Indeed.
And I mean, I always say, imagine if this was like a massive piece of paper.
Oh yeah.
And even though I've been doing this for 25 years, I'll say to an audience, that's what I know after 25 years. I've still got
Yeah,
all that
very
to
good.
learn.
Yeah. Never stop
So
learning.
I do it for myself, where I'll watch myself back. Oh, I didn't like that. I maybe make a certain gesture which makes me look a bit silly. So I'll do it for myself. So that's the first thing: is realize where you are
Yeah.
and think, right, okay,
We're
what
always
can
growing.
what can I do subtly today?
Mm.
And if it's a habit, then you can change habits. And don't beat yourself up if you think, oh, I didn't like the way I did that. The other thing to do is look at people that you admire or respect. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be somebody that you know physically. It could be somebody on TV. It could be a business leader. It could be Tony Robbins or somebody else that you think, wow, they're super confident. It depends where you want to be. And the thing that I will say to people is confidence comes in many guises. You don't have to be this big, grandiose, kind of loud character. You can still retain your own values and beliefs and be quiet. I mean, I've done Myers-Briggs, psychometric tests and various things
Yeah.
over the years, and
Love
I
it.
always come out as introvert.
Mm.
And when I say to people, I'm actually not an extreme introvert. I am introverted.
Yeah.
They'll go, "That's crazy because you do this and you do all these things." But that's the public version of me.
Of course.
The private version of Darren is I don't like to be centre of attention. I don't like to be in the crowds. I do my job and I come away from that. So I think the best advice is to first off realise, it's almost like you hear yourself back on maybe on a tape recorder or show my age then, or your own voice. I hear myself on radio.
See, what's
I
a
never
tape
sound
recorder?
the way I think I sound.
Yeah.
So really realise where you are
Yeah.
in relation to how you perceive yourself, but then look at other people and mirror them. Like again, the NLP technique is modelling or what we call exemplar. Use somebody else as an exemplar and think, wow, I'm going to kind of take a leaf out of their book.
Yeah. Notice other people. Yeah.
And almost you can try different character traits on, like you try a new coat on. If it doesn't fit properly, then don't use it. If it's not congruent with you as a person, then think that's a bit too much for me. I couldn't do that. So that's the best sort of first bits of advice I could give for that, really.
Yeah, and that whole thing about listening, and just holding back a little bit to listen first, seek to understand before being understood is what I'm picking up there, which might be really useful for a negotiation, I'm guessing, is to just listen to what the other person wants, out of this and try to understand the angle from their point of view. Same for a sale, right, Darren?
Absolutely. I mean, some of the stuff I do is I do sit on sort of fairly high level stuff for various people, and I'll get paid basically to read the room for them
Yeah.
and see who's on board in the boardroom and things like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, listening. I mean, I know they always say two ears, one mouth, don't they? But it's true. It's always best to just sit there. I could use an expression: let it simmer. Let things don't just go in. Let things simmer for a while and see what that other person wants. And the principle that you just said from Seven Habits: seek first to understand, rather than you having this urgency to go in and say, well, I want this percentage or I want this to happen. Is listen to what they want first, because the truth is they won't be listening to you anyway. They'll be planning their response to you. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's
They're
what
thinking,
people take. It's human nature. Let them vent it, or let them say it first, and by using rapport, and then by active listening, saying, right, let me just make sure I understand what you're saying. And this is what I used to use in the police. I'd say, right, let me just make sure I'm getting this correct. You've said X, Y, and Z, and you want this, and you'd like this as well. And they go, yeah. And that's another important way of letting them know that you fully understand them. So it comes back to what you said, Andrew, about seek first to understand, then be understood. And
I
then
love those tips, actually, Darren, just to kind of capsulate that. First of all, a mirroring, matching, and leading, that kind of whole thing about modeling other people is just to be focused on what's happening in the room, what's happening with other people, and just observing and perhaps even mirroring or matching before you start to lead. And that's a way of gaining rapport, right? Where you're just looking at other people's mannerisms and you're
yeah,
just understanding those. Doesn't mean you have to copy directly, but it's quite interesting when you see people in rapport. One person moves forward, the next person moves forward, or one person moves forward, the other one moves back, and it becomes a bit of a dance, doesn't it? When people are in
definitely.
rapport, and that's one thing to look out for. The other thing that I thought was really great, in terms of reading the room, was summarize the conversation. Just spend time to kind of go, okay, I think I heard you say this, that, and the other. Did I get that right? Because quite often we might not be listening fully because we're thinking about the next question ahead. But
Yeah,
by just
that's right.
forcing yourself to summarize, you really are trying to deeply listen. And that's a great technique. I use it all the time, that to summarize conversations, because it's so helpful just to create space and to recognize, have I really understood that person?
No, definitely, and
Mm,
it's a technique that the police tend to use. So in the police, if you and I were going into a police interview,
mm,
one of us would be asking the questions, the other one would be what we call the sweeper. So they'd be making the notes,
yeah.
right? So they would
And
be
come
make.
back
So
to something.
we do a timeline.
Mm,
So this is the offence. This is where you were.
yeah.
This is your account of what you did. And then, although we're in a business setting, it's not about deception. If you've got somebody taking notes for you, then because you can focus purely on the person.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're trying to kind of keep a mental note of what they're saying, how they're saying it, plus getting your point across,
Of
it's
course.
it's too many balls to juggle. So
Yeah.
at least, like you say, by verbally um, sort of going back to them and saying, this is what I think I heard. Can you
Mm,
just make sure that's correct? And the other person's taking notes. And even after the meeting, you can do a debrief and think, right, okay, I maybe should have asked this in that situation. So
yeah.
you maybe, in the throes of the meeting, you might miss out on something. I do all the time in interviews. This I'll intend to talk about one particular thing, but because like with you guys, we
Mm,
naturally got very well anyway.
yeah.
We get in the throes of a conversation, and I'll just think, oh, I forgot to say that.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is useful to go back and debrief and think, right,
Yeah.
okay, I need to address this.
Can I come back
Uh,
to this subject? Yeah. And having more than one person in the room with you, if you're negotiating or to sale, it's a big deal. Then don't necessarily do it on your own. Work with other people, because they'll
yeah,
pick up stuff that you haven't, and that gives the reason to kind of, all right, can we just go back 2 or 3 sentences, and you said this, I just want to pick up on that a little bit more, and it gives you that opportunity to go back in the conversation for the things that have been missed if you're just watching the conversation in the moment, right, Darren?
yeah. Even if that
Yeah.
person's not playing an active role in the meeting,
Yeah,
certainly,
indeed.
certainly if you break for coffee,
Yeah.
that's a great time to say, oh, where are we? What
Ah,
did we miss anything?
did we
Then
miss
when you come
anything?
back, you can say, oh yeah, and also I just forgot to mention X,
Yeah.
Y, and Z.
Okay.
So otherwise, that would have been lost had that second person not been there.
Indeed. So there you go, folks. And the other thing is watching back stuff. The great thing these days is we've got video and lives. I watch this live stream back when it's finished, just to kind of learn from it. Because as you said, Darren, we're always learning, and we can always learn
Yeah,
something else. And that lovely piece of paper and that you just tore off a little. So this is what I know today, and actually the rest of the paper is what I need to learn in the future. And we're all in that situation, right? And just being
absolutely.
humble
Yeah,
enough to
definitely.
recognise that. I love that. Let's just
And
go
I
back
think
to
it's. I
say,
think. Sorry,
go on.
Andrew, go
No,
on.
no, carry on, carry on.
No, I
Yeah.
was just saying that's. I mean,
Mm,
that's the arrogance of people sometimes that
mm,
because they have been doing something for a long time,
yeah,
they automatically assume that equals professionalism and they've reached the top of the tree. Well, that's
exactly.
rubbish.
Yeah,
It's like when you see people. I mean, I'm sort of the hypnotist, same as you as well. And
yeah.
when people say I'm a master hypnotist, well, there's no such qualification.
No, there
You
isn't.
just
No.
assume that you've
Yeah.
ascribed that to yourself.
Mm,
So when people call themselves a master this or master that, certainly in our industry in psychology, there is no, I mean, you get master practitioner of NLP, but
of course.
principally there's no sort of master hypnotist, and always makes me laugh when people kind of, pitch themselves in that way. Where I think it just leads to their sort of degree of
There you
arrogance. So I
go.
think it's about being humble and keeping grounded. I think really.
I love that. And so confidence is actually about being humble and being grounded. I love that. And checking with other people, and the confidence just to kind of make sure you've heard it correctly, not just marching on with your own agenda, but really understanding the agenda. And that's real confidence I'm picking up, Darren.
Yeah, it's not all about, kind of. I've known people in the past that have got
Mm,
all these different points, bullet points, and it's almost like a machine gun. It's like
yeah.
rat a tat tat, and and I'm like, this just. And they said, "What do you think?" And I was like, "I'll give you a
Yeah.
subtle clue."
Yeah, I'm
So,
overwhelmed. Yeah.
do you know what I mean? So yeah. So
I'll give
I
you a
think
subtle clue.
so.
Lovely.
So it's subtle clues.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's not what you say, it's what you don't say sometimes that makes the difference in a lot of respects, really.
Or also, just like you've just said there, is let me give you a subtle clue and just sort of say, actually, this conversation is going too fast for me. Say, for instance, if people are rat-a-tat-tatting, can you just slow down a little bit because I'm missing the points? And actually, just being able to put that into a conversation is again confidence, and allows you to have some sort of control over the conversation, that you're pacing to match your style, not just their style, right? Because if they're
Yeah,
rat-a-tat-tatting and they're going so fast that you can't keep up with it, just by telling the group that you're with, actually gives you some more control and a little bit of, you're sharing the power a bit more, as it were. So it's not just a power game; it's an equal game of collaboration.
I think honestly, you make a really good point, Andrew, because
Mm,
it is about pacing the room and
yeah,
the speed of the room. Because some people, as we know, the more kind of say visual people, they'll want to get
mm,
through it.
yeah,
No,
quickly,
some people
yeah,
don't like meetings; they want to race through it. Whereas the
mm,
more kind of
takes their
kinesthetics
time.
of us in the room, we
Yeah,
take time to kind of deliberate and think about things and make decisions. So it's about I find that medium.
yeah,
But like you say, don't be afraid to say just
kind of just
slow
slow
the
down
pace down
because
a little bit. I need to kind of just
yeah,
take stock of this a little bit, you know what I mean, and just kind of go down a gear. There's nothing
yeah.
wrong with doing that, I don't think.
I don't think so at all. And that honors your introvert nature as well, because introverts tend to think first before talk, right? Where
Mm, mm.
extroverts just tend to talk. Being a big extrovert, I know all about that. But when my wife is a big introvert, so learning to recognise that actually she's got some stuff to say and talking about that. Let's bring Sarah back on again. How about that for a nice link, Sarah?
Yeah, Sarah.
Oh, very good. Right, I've gone off on a tangent here, but I was thinking,
Mm,
listening to you talk.
yeah.
So if you are in a meeting or a sales pitch, or perhaps somebody's trying to sell to you,
Mm.
how do you know if they genuinely believe in what they're
Ooh.
selling, or what their levels of integrity are? What are the little clues whether they really believe in what they're doing?
That's again another great. Do you know what? I mean, I've all these hosts. I don't just. I know I'll say this, but you guys ask some great questions, and what all the people watching this don't know is that just to go what you said at the start, Andrew, the prep that you guys put into this,
Yeah.
it's phenomenal. Like I've worked for all the big broadcasters, and I'm being deadly honest here that it's literally seat your pants job. Like there's no one I worked for they've got the actual. Honestly, I'm doing that. Speak from the heart. That puts the work in you guys do. Sorry, what was the
No.
question again? Sorry, I've patterned
The
interrupt
question
myself.
was,
Pat interrupted yourself. I love that.
if you're being sold to, or if you're in
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
meeting, say it might even be an appraisal or something like that in the workplace. How do you know that the person who is opposite that what their integrity is
yeah.
like? Do they believe in what they're doing?
I think again, great question. I think it comes down to kind of reading the level of rapport. I mean, you can, it doesn't necessarily have to be in person. I mean, I pull my hair out a little bit when I'm watching YouTube because then you'll get these property people pop up, and I made £3 million and all this, and you think it's just it's too much, it's too overwhelming. So
Yeah.
just skip, skip, skip. And I think those kinds of people, I don't know what the hit rate is for those, but there's just literally no rapport. Excuse me, it just seems it's just scripted. So I think anyone that you can generally get a sense of it if they're speaking from the heart, and also if they kind of maybe paraphrase what you said to them, it means that they're listening. So if they're just literally, you can generally tell if people are working off a script. So I think either reading them with the body language, or just really listening to how they're saying it, because a good salesperson will, they'll listen to your needs. I mean, a classic example of this was I got a phone call the other week from somebody on the phone trying to sell me a phone, and
Mm.
they said I used to be with Three, I've just changed. They said, "Oh, I'm from Three." I said, "Oh, you're from Three? What's my name?" And they went, "Oh, I'm from Three." And he was saying, "Oh, well, I can get you the new iPhone."
Ah.
He ignored that, and he was going, "Oh, well, it's £20, and it's I can give you like so many meg, right?" And now because I'm pretty much working from home, I was paying the other network a fiver, right? Because I just work off Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And I said, right, I've got my own phone. I pay a fiver, or £5 for those not in the
SIM
UK,
only. Yeah.
SIM only, and I use Wi-Fi at home. And he's like, right, okay. So for £22, I could get you. I says, after 5 times, I went, my friend, you're going to really struggle to establish a need here, aren't you? And I was quite, the ego part of me kicked things. I thought it's the first time a telesales has put the phone down on me.
Oh.
So that's a classic example of someone that's not listening. You're not listening to me. I
They're on
have
the
no
script.
need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, for example, again, it sounds slightly arrogant, but it's not. Somebody was saying, I could get you on that number one on Google. I'm already number one on Google. Yeah, but I can do this. Yeah, I've already got that. So, and then they went, right, okay. So as I said, I went, no, you're not listening. Like, I have no need for your services because I've already got them.
Just
I'm already
talk to me
where
as a human being.
yours.
Yeah.
So that's, I think from that point of view is you'll get, some people can get caught in that cycle. But overly, I think body language, rapport, the fact that they've listened to you, Sarah, really, you know, they've listened to what your needs are, and even if, you know, a good salesperson or someone with integrity will say, well, to be honest with you, you know, I can't help you. Like, you know,
Yeah.
you've already pretty much.
Yeah, you're
That's
done.
that's
Yeah,
the sign of a
you're
true
there.
person.
Yeah.
They're not, you know,
Absolutely.
they're not trying to force a square into a circle. Whereas some salespeople will. They'll think, I'm gonna close them at any cost, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, because they're running the script, right? And
Yeah.
if page 3 doesn't work, they go to page 4.
You can almost hear them click. Oh yeah, that's not well. Like, go to this, you know, flow chart.
Yeah, I'll try again. Here we go. Talk about online and flowchart. So there's a couple of questions here from Rebecca and Anita that kind of
Rebecca,
come
right.
together. So,
Yeah.
do you have any tips on presenting online?
There we go.
What are the top tips for creating rapport quickly?
Okay, 2 questions.
Yeah, I think essentially it's no difference to being in someone's presence. I mean, during COVID, I did not a massive amount, but I did quite a few, you know, sort of public speaking gigs on Zoom. Not my favourite, and admittedly, you won't get, for me, you won't get the same level of rapport that you'll get in terms of being in front of an audience or a group of people. But you can still do a great deal. You know, you can still maybe put some humour in there. You can maybe still. I know you're not going direct on contact. You can't sort of switch to different people per se.
Yeah.
But I think you can still do a great deal. I mean, obviously, you're just looking at me in this little box, you know, whereas you're not seeing the whole person.
Yeah.
So your kind of visual
a bigger
clues
box.
to me are quite limited.
Yeah.
But you can still, you know, kind of. I mean, obviously, I'm looking at my lens. I'm not looking at the screen. I'm looking at my lens. So that's kind of a great one. Is what I learned was that
Look at the
when I'm
camera.
looking at the interviewer, I'm only seeing them peripherally, because if I look at the screen, I'm not looking at the audience, if that makes sense. So if I look down, I don't know if it's noticeable or not, that I'm switching between looking into the actual lens and looking at the screen.
Yeah.
But sometimes that can be, like, for example, the most innocuous of gestures can mean all the difference. Like, I was in a meeting once and this guy went for a second.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Well,
so off-putting,
that was
isn't
it.
Yeah.
That
Poof.
was it.
Yeah.
Right. Now, sometimes breaking rapport is useful. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if guys watching this around the world get this, but in the UK, we have like salespeople effectively that are trying to get subscriptions for various charities. And you know, they'll pretty much say anything to get the sale. So sometimes when you're talking to them, I mean, they'll occupy the space. They talk to own the space.
Yeah.
And sort of come in front of you and sort of do all these gestures. But you know, but there was one person was completely sort of, you know, blind to these techniques, because the best way to break rapport sometimes is shift your body. So don't match them, like unmatch them, right?
Yeah.
So if that person's like that and I was matching them, I then over the course of a few minutes just, you know, eventually I was pretty much had my back to them, you know, so that they did see it. And
Yeah.
then, you know, also if you're talking to somebody, look at their feet. What's their feet in relation to yours? If someone's
Oh.
foot's like that,
Yeah.
it means psychologically they want to go. Now, it might not be a negative thing. It
Near
might
to
mean
the
that they've
door,
got
you
to,
mean?
go to
Yeah.
the bathroom, or
Yeah.
they've got to be somewhere. But when you're talking to somebody, like I do this party game when I see 3 people standing talking, and you always know the one that goes like that with the foot, they're the first one to disengage. So it's
They've already got
way
bored.
of, it's a
Yeah.
good way of building that into your kind of rapport skills.
That's really interesting. That so be mindful of your own body language here,
Yeah.
and slow your body language down, and just be interested in the other person, and genuinely interested, and therefore your foot won't go towards the exit, sort of
Yeah, I mean,
naturally, right? Yeah.
I'm so conscious of
Mm,
like sometimes like my attention span's really short, and sometimes I might yawn. And again, we know that yawn is not necessarily linked to tiredness or boredom. It
yeah.
can be, but I've always been conscious of doing that. So if you if you stood talking and someone does do that,
Mm.
just say, I know you haven't got a lot more. I know you've got to get on, so I'll
Yeah.
just tell
So
you
you've picked
this.
it up. Yeah.
And then that could be the difference that makes a difference, because they'll think, oh,
Mm,
this person understands me. So you
exactly.
might not get
Yeah.
what you want in that moment,
Yeah.
but
But
have it on the back burner for next time.
you've
So it's
recognised that
just
they're on the
really
move.
subtle.
Yeah.
The most powerful techniques, Andrew, and not as you know and you guys know, it's not these big grandiose abilities to spot lies sometimes it's the smallest
Small
thing.
details, just being in the details.
There's a great
Mm.
guy that I follow called Adrian Webster, a
Oh yeah.
public speaker, and his big thing is called a tiny noticeable thing, a TNT,
Tiny
right?
noticeable thing. TNT, folks.
Yeah, I mean, he's if you catch him on YouTube or something, but he's a great speaker, and that's what he talks about. And I'll give you a very quick example if we've got time. He tells a story about a TNT, and he says there's one man who's never had a decent car. Stop me if I've told you this story,
No,
Andrew.
carry on.
You guys,
Yes.
he thinks, you know what? I've worked for like 20 years. I've had nothing but old cars. I'm going to treat myself. So he goes and test drives a Lexus, and
Mm.
he test drives a Mercedes. And you know, a few days later, he decides, oh, I'm gonna order that Mercedes. I might as well spend some money and treat
Some
myself.
serious cash.
So
Yeah.
so the day comes, he gets this Mercedes, and he's driving it around, thinking, feeling pretty proud of himself. Shows his wife and his friends, and anyway, in the afternoon, he notices there's no cigarette lighter. Now he doesn't even smoke, right? But there's no cigarette lighter, and I think it doesn't come as standard now because people tend not to smoke.
Yeah.
So anyway, a day later, the Lexus salesman rings him back, says, "Oh, hi, Mr. Robinson. I just would follow up call to see how you got on with the test drive." And he says, "Well, to be honest, I actually went for the Mercedes." And the Lexus guy goes, "No problem, great company. Maybe next time, you'll give us a go."
Yeah.
He went, "Oh, by the way, while I've got you on the phone," he said, "the car never came with a cigarette lighter." Then went on a bit of a rant about the cigarette lighter. So rather than the Lexus guy saying, "Oh yeah, that's not very good. You spent all this money," and he
Mm.
went, "Well, look, they're great. I'm sure they're going to look after you. The after sales is brilliant. I've heard great things about Mercedes. This is not a plug for Lexus, by the way. If you're watching, if you want to give me one." Um, anyway, the following day,
Yeah.
he gets home and the neighbours knocks on, says, "Oh, I've took a package for you from the courier," and it was kind of like a big box
Mm.
full of like bubble wrap, and he takes this ring box out, opens the lid, and there's a cigarette lighter from Mercedes cigarette
Lexus.
lighter, and
Ah.
the post-it note reads, "Enjoy the car, Mr. Robinson. Best wishes from your local Lexus dealer."
Ah. How lovely is that?
So it's sometimes it's the smallest things.
Smallest thing. So
So I love
look
that
at
story. It's quite good.
it is a lovely story, that, and he was paying attention, right? And what a nice
Yeah,
way to end that. I really like that. And he honoured that person, right? He obviously got on well. I'll surprise him with this. How lovely is that? Nice story.
yeah. It's
Any
just
other
that ego. I
tips?
mean, sorry, Andrew.
Sorry, any other tips for building rapport quickly?
I think essentially, yeah.
Mm,
Don't try and run before you can walk. Just say,
yeah,
right, today
I'm
I'm
going to do
gonna.
this.
If it's not your forte to look people in the eye, just
Mm,
say I'm gonna try my best to
look
kind
them
of
in the
look
eye.
look at somebody in the eye, or I'm gonna set the intention
Mm,
to see where someone looks with their eyes, or I'm gonna set the intention to see if someone in the coffee shop, if they touch their head or something like that. Like
mm.
sometimes I'll have my headphones in and I won't have any music on, but I'll just be listening to people's conversations. I know it sounds a bit creepy, but what I'm doing is I'm listening to the way they speak to each other in language. And if one's using very visual language, for example, and one's say kinesthetic,
Ah,
you
yeah.
can then look at their body language, and sort of if one's maybe nervous, so anti-mouth gestures or reassurance gestures, so what we call pacifying gestures. So if someone's maybe having an argument or a difficult conversation, look at if there are any connections between what they're saying and how they're behaving. So even small things like that.
Just
I
listening
think
to the language and using language in the similar way, right? Is that what you're saying,
yeah.
Darren? Yeah,
Yeah, so learn
nice.
about yourself, like understand
Mm,
yourself first, and then then go on to. So yeah, it's just about raising the game in terms of calibrating and sensory acuity. But first and foremost,
like that.
take the ego out of the equation, no
Yeah.
matter where you are in life, and just make it all about the other person.
Make it all about the other person. And I love the way by making it all about the other person, one of the tips you just talked about there is just that verbal communication. How are they communicating verbally? If they're using words like I see and that looks really good and I can imagine that, then they're probably very visual. So you can use those visual cues to then respond to that person in the same modality. And perhaps if
Yeah,
another person might be using auditory things like, well, that sounds good and that rings a bell. And, then you use auditory type conversational cues back. And likewise for feelings. And, if people are saying, well, I feel that, I resonate with that, that kind of strikes a chord deeply in me.
definitely.
That's kind of more kinesthetic orientation, and just picking that up and watching the speed of the conversation as well, I'm guessing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I had a
Mm,
friend that was a really good salesman, car salesman, and I kind of stood with him once while I was pitching somebody, and
yeah.
he was great, because he well, over the course of a few customers, like if somebody that was very visual was like, oh, imagine what your neighbours are going to think when you pull up in this, then, and then another one was, oh, feel that leather. It's just like going, it's like being on
Mm,
first class,
ah,
recline the seat,
very
feel that,
nice.
and
Yeah.
then it was like listen to that engine.
Mm,
Listen to the stereo. We can upgrade the stereo to this look. So he was just bombarding them, with these different things, and his closure rate was really really high, because that person really felt that this guy understands me.
yeah, because he's tuning into the language he's using or she's using. Love that. Let's just go back to Mrs. Moderator quickly. Sarah, anything in the feed that we want to pick up before we move on?
Um, no, we like the TNT.
Dynamite,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Mateus is dynamite.
Yeah, Adrian Webster, check him out. He's a great guy.
Excellent. We'll look at that one.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Let's have a look. What else have we got? Just a question about when you analyze politicians. Is that
Mm.
on YouTube or? Anita said she'd love to listen to you doing that. Where can she find you?
Yeah, there is quite a lot on YouTube. There's a lot I've got to upload. I mean, I used to
It's got a brilliant channel on YouTube, by the way. It's in the links.
yeah, there's a lot more content I've got to
Mm.
upload. But yeah, I'm going to be working on the forthcoming sort of general election, and if you're in the UK, well, you should be able to get that anyway. And also working on sort of Trump as well. But there's going to be a lot of political stuff coming up. But I have got a fair amount on YouTube if you have a scroll through. And you can always reach out and contact me, and if you wanted to, know anything, it doesn't have to be just within the realms of this interview. If you ever want any sort of help or support or advice,
There you go.
just kind of get in touch.
Get in touch. There you go. And the contact details of Darren are in the feed, actually. We put them in earlier on. I don't know whether Sarah can chance her arm and put him in again just to see whether it works.
Anytime for
Pushing
you
you up,
guys.
pushing you up there.
There you go. So we've got
Anytime.
the YouTube site there, which is brilliant. He's got a massive followingship actually there, and TikTok.com as well, /at TV Human Lie Detector. So TikTok's working really well for you, isn't it,
Yeah, I'm going to be
Mister?
doing a hell of a lot more content on there. And I also
Yeah.
mentioned to you guys earlier, one of my personal bugbears is poor service. So
Poor
I'm going to be
service.
doing, I guess they call them audits. That's
Mm.
quite the new name is. I'm going to be sort of covertly filming, overtly and covertly filming poor service and good service, really. And then I'm going to be analysing, like I mentioned to you, that I went to a drive-through and asked for something, and then the person serving me sort of flashed contempt, which looks like that.
Yeah.
We sort of one-sided
Mm.
smile. So she flashed contempt. So I'm going to be sort of doing that as well later in the year.
So that's interesting. So that whole thing about customer services, just give us a little bit more hints and tips about that there, Darren. That sounds quite interesting there.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that
Mm.
I think a lot of it comes down to the how the person's treated in the company.
Yeah.
If they're treated with value, and I think if they're treated properly, then they'll tend to displace that same kind of ethic onto the customers. Whereas I think if they're treated poorly, like some well-known sort of fast food restaurants, they tend to sort of speak to people. I think COVID was largely responsible because people, I think service went out the window because
Yeah.
people were just, like takeout became the main way of getting food or drive-throughs. People like now, I think people have never a lot of people have never come out of that COVID mode, got COVID way of thinking where they don't have to engage. Like a lot of restaurants now, they still say, oh, can you just scan the QR code? Well, no, because I've come out
Engage
for an
with me.
experience. I
Yeah.
want you to take my order and,
Yeah.
and bring my things in the normal way. I don't want to sit here and do a QR code and pay on my phone.
Yeah.
That's not what I've come out for.
No.
So I think it comes down to the individual's willingness, and by contrast, as you know, I'm sort of moving shortly, and I was down the southwest, and a lot of the places I went to, because it's a touristy place, the ethos was totally different. Like, even regardless of age, I had 99.9% excellent service, because that's really what that area operates on, is hospitality and getting tips and things like that. So yeah, I just think it just comes down to that person's individual. If they're being valued is the big one, really. And you do find there's a correlation between poor service and if someone's been treated properly in that role. And a lot of
Isn't
people
that
don't like their
interesting?
job. I
Yeah.
get that,
Mm.
but while you're there, you may as well do the best you can.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Nando's, for example, I know I'm generalizing massively here, but one of the who doesn't like chicken and chips? Dead easy. But what I do find is that actually their training seems to be really good in most brands, not always, and you certainly see the difference if it's not there. But those that attend to you, and there's one particular restaurant that we go to in Exeter, actually, at Nando's, because it's halfway between us and North Devon. And there's a lady there called Love, and we've got to know her. And she gives us a hug every time we come in, and it's lovely. It's really nice, and we've just struck up rapport with her. She's a human being. She's not just a server. She's there as a human being doing something. And just by paying attention to her and enjoying the conversation with her, we've struck up a great bit of rapport, and it just helps. She gives us free drinks from time to time, and that's really nice. It's just a nice little giveaway as a thank you. And those little bits of customer services go a long way. Just simple rapport things.
It does. I mean, there's one place we used to go to in Nottingham. It's closed down now, but one of the girls that worked there, she would sit at the table with you. Like,
Yeah,
some people
lovely.
maybe think, well, that's a bit too much, but for me, I liked it because her eye line was the same as yours. She
Exactly.
wasn't standing over you, overbearing.
No.
That sometimes if I have to complain, which it's not often, I'm not a serial moaner, but the manager will come over.
Serial
I mean,
moaner.
to be fair, a lot of the time, this is what I think. Certainly in the UK, we're not very good at this.
No.
If I've had really good service, I'll ask for the manager. And the waitress or
Absolutely.
waitress
Make a point.
will look like,
Yeah.
So the manager comes over very tentatively, and I'll say, your colleague was great, the food was nice, and thank you. And they look at you like you're from the moon.
Yeah.
Right?
Brilliant.
Because no one says thank you. Whereas,
Yeah.
like what I do by contrast is, if it's a complaint, I will say to the manager, have a seat. Right, because straight away it takes their leverage and their power away. Not in a not in a narcissistic sense, but when they're standing over you. Yeah. Well, if you stand up, it seems confrontational. So I would say, have a
Sit
seat.
down.
It's
Gotcha.
almost like I've assumed power then, because we're on the same level. And I'm just saying, look, to be honest with you, it wasn't good.
No.
It was a very poor experience tonight. And I know they'll probably offer you things, but it's not about that.
No.
It's about feedback, and it's saying you've ruined my night, basically.
But you've done it in a nice way.
Yeah.
And a way that they can take it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not about demonizing people, making feel people. I mean, I've seen customers reduce staff to tears, and that's just not right. It's not. It's out of order. Whereas if you give constructive feedback and say, look, I'm not making a scene, but it wasn't good. Then people know, don't they?
And being honest, but doing it in a nice way, Darren. I really like the way you've said that. And look, we're running out of time fast. So quickly, Darren's website here, if I can find it. What's happened there? I've lost the website. Oh, no, there it is. Plop. Which is darrenstanton.com. There it is there. And Body language and behavioral expert. Love that. There's our Darren there. Great website. And you can see all the gigs which Darren's doing and the shows that he's been on and the links to all of his YouTube sites and things like that. And I've got a coffee. Thank you very much, Dean Miller. Yay!
Oh.
Thank you very much, Dean. Brilliant.
Can I just mention also, if people are into crime, not committing crime.
Oh, yes,
for those
indeed.
who've got Apple TV or Amazon Prime, I'm in a show called Interrogation Secrets for those in the UK, with a guy called Judge Rinder, who's kind of like Judge Judy kind of character. So we look at 10 different killers and I decipher their body language. So that's coming on Amazon Prime and Apple TV.
And you've also got something coming up on Channel 4 as well, haven't you?
Yeah. I can't say too much about it. It's a brand new crime-based reality game show which is coming out.
Look out for that, folks.
So that's in pre-production. Yeah, so that's quite exciting.
Thank you. And before we get on to Goose next week, let's bring Sarah up just for our call to action as well, Sarah.
Yeah, sorry, I was too busy typing in.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, lovely. Secrets, Apple TV, Amazon Prime. There it is in the feed.
Yeah, just a reminder, if you love the show, make sure you subscribe because it makes it really easy to get onto the calls.
Yes, please. That would be really helpful for you guys listening. Just do www.leaderslive.tv/subscribe. There it is.
If you love what we do, tell all your friends. And Andrew and I were talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
What we would absolutely love, so I'm just putting it out there, is if you are looking to sponsor a show or really appreciate what we do and would like to sponsor us, get in touch. We would absolutely love that.
Yeah, we're looking for a new sponsor. So there we go. Thanks, Sarah. That's brilliant.
It's not that we're trying to ditch the old sponsors. We really appreciate you, Kathy. It's just that we would absolutely love to have some other sponsorship come on board alongside us, and let's try and expand this a bit further.
Perfectly said. Thank you.
A lot of work goes into it. We do love what we do, but we'd love to get it out there a bit more.
Yeah, that would be great. Yes, please. So whoever you know, please let us know. That would be really useful. Next week's Goosh, folks. So the show for next week, we've got next Tuesday slot, 20th of February at 08:45 UK time. We're hanging out with lead account manager Paul Yates of YPS Psychology. They're specialists in sort of wellness, mental health, education for things like ADHD, for depression, for dyslexia and things like that, for companies, leaders, teachers, students, employees. They go far and wide. So Psychology in Practice, it's called a deep dive into mental health strategies. And that's one of the things that we talk a lot about on this show is mental wellness. And, so there's some hot topics we're talking about: sleep disorders, anxiety, depression, stress, things like that, and ways and means that that YPS Psychology can help us. So we can't wait for that. We think you're going to love it. And thanks again to Darren for an extraordinary show this morning. So yeah, thanks again, Darren. And we're going to say goodbye now. We've run out of time, but we're going to say goodbye, wave goodbye to you on our outro closer. Have a great week. God bless you. May God's love go with you today, and may God's love shine on you as well. Ta-ra a bit. We're going to wave goodbye. Cheers for now. Thanks, Darren. You're a star as always, mate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Love having you on the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks. There we go. Bye for now. Boom. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody. See you again next week. Bye-bye.